The residues that we're talking about in question are residues of a pesticide product which has been used to control pests and diseases which afflict the crops we grow for foodstuff. And having had their desired effect of controlling the pest, there is a small amount of the compound left which is designated as a residue. Well, the maximum residue level, the MRL, is the level that is set by the government to be the maximum permitted amount of pesticide residue that is acceptable on a crop.
So what is done in Europe, for example, that the authorities and the Commission, they look into all member states, and it is checked where is the highest amount of the compound being applied to a particular crop, where is the shortest so-called pre-harvest intervals, or the shortest time between last application and harvest. So in other words, where is the highest probability of residues, or the probability of highest residues? That is what we call the critical agricultural practice. And the industry has to provide data on these critical good agricultural practice, and these residue data are then the basis to set a maximum residue level. This maximum residue level is set according to the so-called ALARA principle. That means as low as reasonably achievable. So there is a minimization principle behind it. So it must be set high enough to cover the needs of the farmer, but as low as possible in order to satisfy consumers' wishes and safety needs. And it's needless to say that MRLs can only be set when they are in compliance with the toxicological endpoint. So the MRL is a standard, a trading standard, but no toxicological standard. But it has to be in line with toxicology. That means in most cases there is a huge safety margin between the MRL and the toxicological endpoint. Well, the Commission has a so-called coordinated program where all member states participate, and there is in this program it is set which crops have to be investigated or monitored for residues, in which member state, how many samples have to be taken. And this is a rolling program, so they change from crop to crop over the years. And on top of that, of course, the member states themselves also have their own national monitoring program. And it is also important to know that these monitoring programs are usually so-called targeted programs. So they're looking for those crops which tend to have higher residues. So it's not an arbitrary picture of our food as we eat it, but it's, well, I may say that a bit sloppy, it's looking for the usual suspects.
Okay, so they actually go after the ones that are going to have high residues.
Because one has to know that once an MRL is exceeded, so more residues are found in the crop than the MRL prescribes, then this product can no longer be traded, because it's a trading standard. And of course, everybody is interested that we have a free trade flow of the commodities. But this has nothing to do with the consumer safety.
The European Union produces an annual report, as do many other authorities around the world, which generally show that there is a small percentage of residues which are above the maximum residue level. That normally is in the order of 3 to 5%, varying from year to year. around 20 to 30% of the crops have a residue which is below the maximum residue level, and there are around 60 to 70% of the crops sampled which have no residue at all.
We know from experience from many years back in the 90s, back to the 90s, that in a huge majority of cases there is no risk for the consumer when an MRL is exceeded. There have been single cases, but the authorities have taken action accordingly, and these risks also should be weighed against other risks. For example, the risk not eating fruit or vegetables would be a far greater risk to our health than eating fruit and vegetables with these trace amount of residues.